from my side. We're a small group, and perhaps to myself, I'm professor at the Lucerne University of Applied Science, so I know these settings where everybody is sitting in the back and nobody in the front. But since it's interactive, I invite you to come in front if you like, because I prepared some work we can to do, because it's a workshop, and it's a workshop on DeFi supervision and the question about whose task is it. So it's not that I tell you who should be responsible for DeFi supervision. I will introduce you in the topic, but I also want to discuss this with you because it's a more or less open topic. But to start off, I would like to invite, and just get me this started here, invite you to, I have some polls on Mentimeter. I hope this works with the link. Just scan the code. We have multiple checks over the lecture, give you some minutes, just also to get to know you. What is your background and why you're attending this session? So polls are coming in. Looks great, and I do it the classical way to present this. Should work. No. Is there a way we can? Too many ways to. You can't read it. Well, I can read it. Let's do it like this. I thought we can just put it on. Okay. So we got 6 DeFi enthusiasts and 1 fintech innovator. So that's pretty cool because we don't have any newbies. Unfortunately, we don't have any regulatory experts. Okay, so I'll have to take this job down. So thanks for this short overview. So the goal of this session is a little bit, I want to introduce you into DeFi and the unique landscape and risks. We have some supervision challenges, and also looking into supervision of the decentralized world, and then together work on some exercises. So I keep this short because most of you know the topic of decentralized finance, but still, and I added this flowchart from a publication of a colleague of mine. So if we look at decentralized finance, it's always the question, how decentralized is it really? And this flowchart guides you through, because you have you can make the decision of centralized finance and decentralized finance, and it's not that clear that you might think. So normally we say, okay, DeFi, that's something, it's based on a blockchain, it's open, it's permissionless, so everybody can contribute, and it's smart contract based, so it's automatic. We don't have any interference of people in there, but the user is in control. So that's the main idea. And of course, it's transparent and publicly verifiable, and all these kind of topics. And I think what's also very important to understand, it's 24/7. So I don't have any lag time. So where I say, well, okay, I can take the whole thing down. It's working all the time. And one of the biggest things is pseudonymity, so that I don't act with my name. And that's one of the biggest issues when it comes to supervision. But following the flowchart, it's always the question, when is it centralized and when is it decentralized? Because not just putting a protocol on a blockchain doesn't mean that it's DeFi. So the first question is, who is in control? Who has the keys to the smart contract? Who can change the smart contract or alter it? There are several possibilities even to change a smart contract afterwards. And even if this is out there, then do I have some kind of control mechanisms? Do I have a DAO? And if I have a DAO, then who owns the voting shares? And then at the end, I can also ask myself, okay, now I'm on a blockchain, but this blockchain has some kind of governance model. So are there some main developers that can stop the blockchain? Yeah, think back to Ethereum when we had a fork. Yeah, so still even if my whole protocol or my application is decentralized, I still rely on some infrastructure. So I think these are the questions we have to ask ourselves. And comparing decentralized finance with the traditional banking when it comes to risks, so that's the picture of traditional finance. We have some kind of liquidity providers. We have the bank, the classical financial institute. We have a counterparty that gets loans. We have a market. And then outside of this ecosystem, we have the regulator, we have laws, and we have supervision organizations. When we look into risk, traditional financial risks are 3, or depending on how you look at 4 risks. That comes also from the Basel III initiatives. And so one of the topic is market risk. So what happens if something happens on the market? Yeah. So the whole stock markets go down. What risks does this mean for my ecosystem or my bank? I have the traditional credit risk. So if I'm a counterparty, what if I default? So that's our risks, always from the financial institute, the bank, seen. I have liquidity risks. What if there's a bank run and everybody takes out its money? So then I have an issue as a bank. And operational risks, traditionally, what happens if something in the bank goes wrong decisions, fraud, stuff like this. IT systems, cybersecurity risks, that's all operational risks or op risk. So that's from the traditional part. Now let's switch into DeFi. So I don't have any bank anymore. I have a smart contract, blockchain-based. I now have cryptocurrencies. I still also have this in the traditional finance now, but here the main focus market is the crypto market. Not hackers, but anonymity. So I don't know who provides liquidity, and I don't know who is my counterparty, for example, for lending protocols. Regulation is becoming pretty complex because in the traditional market, if I'm a bank with a Swiss banking license, I'm under Swiss regulation. If I'm a bank in Germany, I'm under German and EU regulation. If I'm in the US, I'm under US regulation. If I'm worldwide with DeFi, so which regulation apply? That's a big question. Supervision. Today, we don't have any supervision. Some say, well, it's the community that supervises. Yeah, that's exactly what we want to work on. Then other aspects, like I already mentioned, 24/7. We don't have any banking hours. Yeah, so it's always up, always running. And also what's important when you look, for example, at lending, in traditional banking, you normally have maturity times. So you take a loan for 3 years. you invest into something for a period. When you look at DeFi and the whole blockchain-based protocols, I wouldn't say none, but 99.9% don't have any maturity. So it's always until the user takes out his money or pays back the loan. Yeah? And that's pretty complex to calculate risk because all the risk models mainly work on this duration. And then when we look into the risk, we have, of course, the risks we already have in traditional banking, but in addition, we get more technology risks, which we can put somewhere in the operational risk part. We get, or we see more attacks to the market, like front running and stuff like this, because you can do it. Yeah. Also the question, do we have some supervision? We have regulatory risks, in the meaning that which regulation really applies and what happens if tomorrow the regulator says, well, okay, this is forbidden. Yeah. So you have this kind of uncertainty. And you have the governance risk when you bring supervision to the community. So, for example, DAOs, who really observes this and how can I guarantee that those stakeholders really comply to what is meant to. What we did in a research perspective, we looked into risks in DeFi and came up with this identification of various risks. And don't worry, it's small, but I have this on paper for you, you know, the classical way as universities work. But you also need this for the workshop, so everybody can take this home, or also if you want to look into the publication, I think slides are distributed. So now with this, I really want to step into discussing risks with you. And for this, you know, as I mentioned, the classical way, I've got some, can I just give this to you? Sure. Thanks a lot. I have more if we need more paper. You also can work in teams. You can come up. It really should be a little bit interactive. I know it's this kind of classroom settings is not the best way to start this. And before we work here in this, I got another survey coming up. So for those who joined late, you can scan this code. For those who already participated in the first poll, you should just can continue with the same link. And the question would be, which risks were you the most in DeFi? Give you a little bit of time. Oh, thanks. So, got the first answer. Unfortunately, I cannot present this, but I'll read it loud. So, answers are coming in. At the moment, we are mainly worried about regulatory risks. 4 and 2 operational risks. So nobody's worried about technology. That's good because you all are the DeFi experts that develop these protocols. No errors, of course. Oh yeah, okay. Sorry, I should haven't told this because now it's coming the first technology risk. Okay, so now we got 1 technology risk, 2 operational risks, and 4 regulatory risks. Wonderful. So let's go back, and 1 market risk. 2 technology risk. Okay. Yeah, so I prepared this small canvas for this session, and the idea is, I think you're all familiar with Canvas, like the business model Canvas. So the question is, and perhaps you can also discuss. It's a workshop. It's not an exam, so don't worry. So what do you see? Which risks do you see? So again, we have 2 technology people who see technology risk, operational risk, 1 market risk, and 4 regulatory risks. So what risks do we have, and who or how can we assess them? That's the question. So if I have operational risks, how can I measure this risk? What do you see in possibilities to measure those risks? And really happy to start a discussion with you.
From the technological point of view, like DeFi protocols, they don't have the custody, but they receive deposits from users, and if there is any smart contract potential exploit, then your funds are at risk. So that's very common with the hacks.
Yes, and how would you assess them, or how would you measure this? Just money's gone. Oh.
So
Yeah.
in amount
Of money lost. Yeah. Potentially lost.
So they will use multiple protocols, multiple liquidity pools, for example. You can assess how much of your overall wealth or allocation is in which protocol. And maybe you can diversify amongst multiple protocols.
That's already into measures how I can address this risk. We'll come to this later, but yeah, this is one possibility. Diversify the risks.
You mean from the user perspective or from the protocol perspective?
So I'm open here, but I think this is from a protocol perspective, as I understood. You're right. But we can also, from a user perspective, also I can diversify. I can put my money in different DeFi protocols and hope that not all got hacked. Yes.
I would like to state my opinion about 2 points. One is about the relation between the technology risk and governance or regulatory risk. For example, the issue of especially hacks or smart contract risks. But maybe some situations they require hard forks and other stuff. It is very, also yesterday there were many discussions about it is hard to detect if liable or responsible.
So who is responsible for the error? And
Actually, it is possible, but in the eye of the law, no government is such willing to do it in order to not obstruct the innovation. So because of this, maybe it is better to, I would like to also say, for example, as a potential solution, it will be better to regulate the crypto as a service providers strictly.
yeah, we'll come to this point. It's great if you already think about solutions. I always tell my students, and IT students always start with the solution. Think about the problem first.
Second point is
Yeah.
that the governance risk, especially again about smart contracts and or cyber attacks, generally when it happens, sometimes the DAOs must act to solve it or prevent it. But problem is in taking decision, the DAOs is dealing with the classical political science issues which are coming from hundreds years of debate, but DAO members are generally the technical people in terms of
Mm-hmm.
I mean, DLT techniques, and they don't have much idea about how to take decision in an efficient way. So I think the governance risk is the second point.
Okay. Thanks for this input. Other topics you come to mind when you look at risks and how can we measure or assess them?
Yeah, maybe on the first point, like hacks and bugs, so possibility, or I mean, it's difficult to measure that, obviously, but one way is like trying to use to audit these codes and look for whether these are based on standard technology or standard codes or whatever. I'm not a technical person, but I guess you can do that in some way. And also based on the complexity, so the less complex, the less likely for these kind of errors. So that could be.
Yeah, fully agree. I think that's also, it's not the first reason for ERC20 or those token standards, but also it's one reason because when I stick to a standard and I use this code, then I know that all the others already use this, so I can be sure it's more or less safe. On the other hand, it lowers the innovation part, of course, because I stick to a standard. I do whatever the others already do. And when you look, for example, to lending protocols or exchange protocols, each protocol comes up with their own individual ideas and how liquidity is provided, how exchange is done. That's also the innovation part. Okay, so let's go further. We already did this to challenges. Just here. So when we ask ourselves why do we have supervision or what is the aim of supervision, then it's not all about knowing what the financial market is doing. So the responsibility for supervision, even in the traditional finance, is transparency. So being able to show what's happening on the market and also to the users or stakeholder, transparency about the market. Then it's all about risk management, and it's always the question, supervision on which level? So on a bank level or financial institute, it's about supervision of this institute and monitoring and reducing the risks of this institute. When you look at the country's perspective, like supervision from FINMA or National Bank, it's all about looking into the systemic risk factor. So the National Bank is responsible for the Swiss, systemic risk. You had a question.
I don't know why you say transparency for the banking sector, or I got something wrong there. So you say that the supervision aims for transparency. I rather would say that the supervision aims for monitorage.
Well, monitoring is it also, but also one of the tasks of supervision today in the financial market is to bring transparency on the market. When you look, for example, at FINMA SMB, they publish reports about the actual status of the. They also have, or we also have regulation that forces the financial institute to publish some standards. So that's the idea behind this. Then also supervision, or the aim of supervision is that we have integrity. So, to make sure that institutes really follow the rules. We don't have any market manipulation. Of course, financial stability. This comes together with the risk management, consumer protection. So that I'm, as a user or participant in this ecosystem, is I've saved from this. Also, when you look at the traditional banking, we have some kind of funds. So if a bank goes bankrupt, I get at least some part from my money back from this fund. Then comes the legal side. Supervision also enforces compliance with the law, and one of the laws is know your customer, or anti-money laundering, counter financing of terrorism and stuff like this, and also to prevent monopoly. So when you ask a supervisor from a financial perspective, what are your roles? These are the roles. Now, the big question about financial or supervision in the DeFi space is, what is your opinion? Who should be responsible for supervision in the DeFi space? And I also gave you multiple choices, so you can decide how much they should be responsible. And for those who are new in this space, DYOR, do your own research. So that's the traditional part. You say, okay, user, if you participate in this space, you're responsible for your own market. You have to do your research, and if you invest in a protocol that's fraud, then yeah, your research was wrong. And one question also, you find the node operators, the validators. I think with proof of stake, validators now not miners anymore, they are validators, and validators could also validate further points. So that's the question: should we enforce those validators that they take additional parts in this ecosystem? What is your opinion?
Conflict of interest. So in my opinion, my personal opinion, the ultimate way for the supervision will belong to users or user companies, individuals itself. I mean, the most likely there will be no other way than do your own research for the future.
Yeah, but I think that's the open question. Is it that you, as you mentioned, that a game theory behind this whole validation makes it impossible that validators really act on the best behalf of the users, but on the best behalf of themselves?
Because the first rule of supervision, for example, in classical finance, is that audit, for example, supervision must be made by considerably more independent authority. This is why, for example, central banks or regulatory authorities were established years ago. Today, okay, maybe it is debatable. So, but the same problem occurs here. I mean, who will be considerably independent, do not have conflict of interest? I think node operators may not be suitable for that.
So when I look at the results, it's a little bit a putt. So we have a slightly winner between the classical regulator FINMA, the developers, and the DAO. Also, the user should be responsible, the community should be responsible. None of the above. That's a great part. Who voted for none of the above and has some great new ideas? Nobody want to? Or you
But I thought of it, and I thought of global regulators.
so not the country-based.
The FinCEN who tells FINMA what to do.
Okay, so there we should have some global unit that regulates DeFi as a global financial system. Yeah, we are open. It's a workshop. It's not some other. The legislator. Who is the legislator? Swiss Parliament or the US Parliament for each. Okay. Other opinions?
Well, I think it's important to distinguish between short term and long term. So I think in the long term, the goal that it's the DAO, so the contract itself. But for now, I think it's important to, in order that people immigrate into the DeFi world, we need trusted people, trusted institutions. So I think FINMA might be somewhat of a big player in the short term, while it's, as I said, the goal to move away from institutions in DeFi, which is the ultimate goal in DeFi anyways.
So the idea is during a ramp-up phase, we have the traditional like FINMA until we get this kind of big DAOs that are able to supervise this. Okay. So yeah, let's discuss or work on the right part. So I just put two columns. One, who are the stakeholders and what is their duty? You already filled out this this poll, and perhaps you can also look into this and know from your opinion, who are the stakeholders, what are their duty in this whole DeFi ecosystem? Again, also discuss with your neighbors, which is hard in this setting, who's distributed. But yeah, we are talking about distributed, decentralized finance, so it's completely great that you are distributed in the whole room. Other opinions on this? Are there any stakeholders we haven't touched yet there, in your opinion? all and each one has their duty or different duty, or so the idea is to list them, and also on the right side list to each stakeholder what is her or his duty on this topic. Okay, let's move on. So the idea of this governance column is to bring those sides together. So we, on the one hand side, we have the risks and how we can measure them, your ideas on the risks and measurements. And on the other hand, we have the stakeholders and their duties, and how can we bring them together. So how can we form or formulate methods or protocols that each of the stakeholders can fulfill their duty and reduce or control the risks? What are your opinions on this?
Introducing standards based on past failures, let's say.
Standards, so learning from failures. What we, I think also in the traditional finance, we learn from failures. So there is a big issue, financial crisis 2008-9, and now we make new regulation and we have this kind of liquidity reserve and all this stuff, yeah? The big issue is we first have to lose money to learn. And the other question is, how we record these issues, and how can we educate the financial market? Should there be a joint database for issues? What is your opinion on this?
I have an idea like this. For example, as I said, DeFi generally, for example, in my European regulation, is not regulated in many ways because the innovation should be promoted because it is how it is. The problem is that, but what happens if some damage or other results occurs? Who will be responsible? In my opinion, if the third-party service providers, crypto service providers like centralized exchanges, they are operating in the same, almost in the same principle with classical market service providers, and they are much more profitable, and they are profit-focused companies. So we can take those heavy weights, that burden, cost burden or social burden from DeFi developers or who can be responsible, and we can put this burden on the shoulders of crypto assets or DLT service providers who operate with the same principle of classical ones.
Okay, so we take them in charge who make the big money.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, in exchange with that huge profit, not only money profit, also there is a huge social profit. We can discuss it.
The big question is who takes them into account, and I think also in DeFi it's always the question if it's a country-based regulation, what prevents them from switching countries, just going to another country where there is not this regulation.
And the problem will occur here if we put such burden on the shoulders of those service providers. They will try to do legal arbitrage. I mean, they will try to change the jurisdiction.
Yeah.
So, as my colleague said, I mean, having a standard which can be enforced by more DLT-focused countries will be a very good governance solution.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Open to your. So yeah, I think if you thought about governance and bringing stakeholders or linking stakeholders to risks and how we can observe this. So the next question, I just have to switch here. Yeah, so the next question would be, what do you think from the above? How can this compliance be measured or should be measured? So what kind of standards or measurement standards should we introduce into DeFi to assess the risks? And also that, so our goal is to ensure that DeFi operates correctly, legally correctly with our ethical standards. And I know that's at this point, when we go worldwide, there are different ethical standards, I know. But I think transparency and non-fraud are compliant with all countries, that we don't have, or we don't see this as ethical. So what do you think about measure possibilities or measurement possibilities? Sorry.
So is the question only on ethics or on risk in general?
It's again, when I come back to the goals of supervision, so to fulfill, or in order to fulfill those goals, what measurements should we take?
So for the major players, you may want to have the code audited or certified.
Okay, so major, what makes me a major player? The big five protocols, DeFi protocols. Okay, like Aave and MakerDAO and those. I think, yeah.
Sorry, maybe, I mean, it's about systemic risk, as you said before. So maybe at a point when a certain volume has reached, which is systematically
Yeah.
that has to be determined, obviously.
Okay.
Thresholds that is
Yeah.
common.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea to say, okay, then we make an audit. The big question is, when I become famous, my smart contract is already deployed. Then I audit a smart contract I cannot change anymore. That's the question. Or I make a new version, or
But wouldn't be a problem, because if the audit comes, or the result of the audit is that it's a bad product, then you can inform the people and say, hey, don't use this protocol.
hey, my product is bad. Please don't use it, but use version 2. Yeah. Valid. Yeah.
You're not allowed to use this type of service. Intermediaries, as you said before, are not allowed to.
But who should be the auditors?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I'm an economist, so I would say private companies, but this should be regulated again from the regulator, somehow regulators.
Okay, so the regulator should appoint some audit companies, like the big five and new business for KPMG and all the others.
Not necessarily appoint, but just have like this is a task, and maybe certify companies who
Okay, yeah, good idea.
I know that Deloitte already does that.
Yeah,
So I think so let's split it in two, right? So you have the legal side and regulatory side, where I guess national regulation should have a look if any laws are broken within the protocol or service which is offered, and make them aware if something is against regulation. When it's possible, right? If it's not completely decentralized. But on the other hand, if you have like security topics, which might be vulnerabilities in the code.
security topics, you mean technology risk, like?
Technology-wise, I think regulation would be too slow, or centralized audits, but I think the community itself will find weak points very fast and make them known or exploit them even, right? And then this is a problem which can kind of
So the
solve itself, right?
the market resolves itself.
So I think to find issues within the code, you don't need KPMG or Pricewaterhouse or whatever, right? So the community will
Like some kind of bounty system. Because the big question is, how do those errors really come up and arise, or what prevents me from a developer when I find this this topic, that I wait until there is enough cryptocurrency in this and then pull it out, and then really make a bigger damage.
Absolutely, but on the other hand, I don't think if it's practical
Yeah.
Maybe someone who is some lone wolves out there might find it even earlier and exploit them or not. I think this is a risk.
Yeah, and I think smart contract code is getting pretty complex, and especially if you then combine products with other products, it's much more complex. And to say, okay, FINMA, lucky you, so far you just observed the traditional banking, but now here are 1,000 smart contracts. Go for it. Find the error.
So my opinion, my personal opinion is that the regulator should have a look at laws, national laws, if products or services which are offered are compliant and not breaking any
Mhm.
laws, but from a technological standpoint, I think
Leave this to the
leave this to the
community. Okay?
Can I add something?
Sure.
I think about, I mean, we discussed the problem of choosing the supervisor or audit. I mean, who will be responsible for audit? I think here the key term is legitimacy. And for example, a certified entity is more trustable. But the point is, how can it be certified by law? It may be not suitable because law is strict and it can cause other consequences. In my opinion, like ISO, International Standards Organization, I mean, for example, they are generally internationally more trusted, considered more trusted and more legitimate standards in the eyes of users, entities. So maybe, for example, in like ISO in international area, for example, the most um, by the way, maybe it's already made. Most encountered DeFi attacks can be explained, descripted, and I mean, the measures, potential measures, how they can be taken. Those can be explained, and the entities in any jurisdiction who um, attempts to audit or supervise DeFi protocols can be certified according to these rules. So
So coming up ISO standards for
exactly, it's
evaluate.
better than no standard. It's
Mhm.
better than law because it provides legitimacy, but in an area, innovative area that is not much predictable.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. So just looking a little bit on the time and want to come to our last box in this topic. Now we discussed risks and who is responsible, who should be responsible, how can we measure it, and then the question is, how should we report it? So the question, who should report, what to whom? Yeah. So, for example, the developers, technological or security issues to the community or to whoever. Who should be the receiver of these reports? What do you think?
I think there should be an integrated system like the complaining or reporting should be made to a classical regulatory authority or supervisory authority, but it should be published more transparent for the reports about DeFi. So if it will be, all of them will be published, for example, lead. The point is that also the communities or independent developers, independent entities can also be included in that discussion, report, complaint,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is. So I think it should be reported to classical authorities with much more transparency in case it is about DeFi.
Mm-hmm. Good. Other opinions?
I think community should receive a lot. Like it's important that the community receives a lot of information. I mean, there are a lot of points there we don't discuss about all information, but most information, so that it can, on the one hand, decide for themselves which ones are the good and bad ones, and on the other hand, that developers can learn from it. So I think it's very important that it's
So, like the regulator collects or gives some standards, and then collects this and then publishes it to the community.
Yeah, or you have to report like if it's possible to enforce it, then these enforced entities have to, like you have like these annual reports, you have to report something to the public.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So I think thank you for your inputs. As a conclusion from my side, it was fun having also a small group, having this lively discussion, even in this large setting. Also for me, very interesting, what's your opinions about who should work on this whole supervision? I think when we observe the space, there will be more regulation on this, so more, and I think it's also because there are more institutional investors coming into this space, and they want to have some kind of certainty. So they want risk management. That so there are the voices that there has to be some regulation and also some supervision about this. From my perspective, the biggest issue is we are in a global, worldwide market. So who is the authority that takes this role? As you mentioned before, perhaps at the beginning we have to have the traditional players, and then going into a DAO, and we had a lot of discussion about regulation in DAOs, and does it work or work not? So that's interesting to see. So in the university, we're always asked at the end, how do you rate this workshop? So I invite you to give feedback on the workshop, how satisfactory this was to you. It's an open discussion. I think we all learned from it. I hope so. Thank you very much for this feedback. And I got a last poll. Which of the aspects was valuable for you? Most value the group discussion, and I think that was great, even if it was a small group. A great discussion. Thank you from my side for attending this workshop. I hope you also took something with this, and I wish you a nice apéro afterwards. Thank you.